If you are really passionate or if you want to learn, you can go from high school, enter the industry, and learn on the job. Because what's great about manufacturing, I think manufacturing in Connecticut in general, manufacturers will invest time in you to learn.
Just a quick reminder for you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better.
Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. Today, I'm on with Rani Viroja, a quality engineer at Accuturn. Hey, Rani, thanks for coming on today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, it's really my pleasure. It's a Made in America podcast, though. So we start off with the same two questions. What do you make and why do you make it?
So I'm going to give you a long-winded answer.
Okay, here we go. I'm ready. Buckle up.
Okay. So we are, for the past 27 years, we've been a solution provider for aerospace and defense supply chain management problems. Let me reiterate that. For the past 27 years, we've been the solution provider for aerospace and defense supply chain issues. So what does that look like? In-house, we do CNC turning, 3, 4, 5 axis milling, and Swiss screw machining. So we've really grown in those capabilities and have really gained expertise with that machining. A lot of the problems that our customers currently have are with the supply chain, right? They want their parts tomorrow and they want it, with the best quality possible, which is fair. And so that's when we come in. So we function in 3 different ways. So the first one is as an offload job shop. So let's say our customer has a job that they want to run and they just don't have the capacity or the capability to run it in-house. We'll act as an extension of their shop floor and just pump those parts out so that they're able to deliver those parts on time to their customer.
Got it.
Another way that we function is as a prototype shop. So a customer will come to us and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to create a part and I don't know what outside processes it might need or what material necessarily we want to use before it goes into long-term production. So we'll help them. We'll sit down with them, figure out, hey, this is kind of, what we think, and we'll test it out for them. We'll do multiple iterations of that part until they find the one that works. And then we'll bring that part into long-term production for them.
Got it.
And then lastly, we also function as a complete job shop. So that means our customer will give us a blueprint and will be like, I don't want to look at this until I get my 2,000 pieces back fully complete with heat treating, NDT, all of these outside processes done. And while in-house we only do machining, for the past 27 years, we've grown our local network so that it includes all of these outside processes. So if a customer needs a quote right away, or if a customer needs a job done right away, we have our go-to people that we've been sending it to. So it's not, and what's great about Connecticut is there's so many companies that are popping up, right? Yeah. For, manufacturers, people who do these processes, and so I feel like if you just look in the state, you'll find someone, and that's what we've found. If we look if you throw a stone and you're going to find like 10 manufacturers, right? And so it's been so easy to really keep our suppliers local.
Got it. And why is the local part important to you guys? I think
it helps us with our timing, right? In terms of our supply chain, if our customer needs a part ASAP, shipping it out of state, that adds a little bit of time. But also keeping your suppliers local helps the local economy, right? You're able to help them grow and they're able to then in turn help you grow. So it's this mutualistic relationship that really works. And that's why we like to keep them local. And also, when we ask our suppliers, hey, can you do this? Or, having just conversations that are easier to have in person. We prefer that over email. And obviously we do email and, talk to customers and suppliers that way. But when you have that face-to-face conversation, there's more opportunity for collaboration.
Sure.
So that's kind of how we like to keep our suppliers local. And obviously there's a lot of manufacturers in Connecticut, right? Sure. There's so many. So why are we different, right? We pride ourselves in our quality and our ability to hold very tight tolerances. So we've had jobs that have been 24, 25 inches in diameter that have had plus minus 0.2 in tolerance. And what that means, kind of simply put, is customer gave us a print. We made that part to the blueprint's specifications with precision and accuracy within like the thickness of a hair. So, and we were able to reproduce those results with, other parts as well. So that is something that has allowed us to retain our customer base for the past 25 plus years. And when we get new customers, most of them are usually from referrals from other customers. So yeah.
Yeah, the quality speaks for itself.
Yep.
That's awesome. And Ronnie, that was like a ton we got to go through there.
I know, yeah, no, exactly. I told you, I said it's going to be a lot.
And listen, so I want to get into that and talk some more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Also, I know that you're co-chair of AMEP.
Yes.
And I know workforce is a big part of all that and something we talk about a lot. And I certainly want to get into that. But let's just do a little bit, not only on sort of the story of Accuturn, just to give people kind of an idea of the context in which we're talking. But I also want to get into your personal story a little bit too. Because I mean, in a lot of ways, you've just said a few things, or you demonstrate a few things that I think break the mold of what people think is possible out there. Yeah. You're young. You're energetic, you're a woman, you're in manufacturing, and you just told me that, hey, let's get out of the technology, away from email, away from the screens, and meet in person. And I think those, almost every one of those checks like a stereotype box that people need to get their arms around, right? Like how often do we hear, oh, the generation today, all they want to do is be on TikTok or look at a screen, they can't talk to anybody. So I think there's a lot of people who kind of know that that isn't the reality, and you're demonstrating that, so I think that's awesome. So let's just start with Accuturn a little bit. So you said it was started in 1997?
Yep, 1997.
And so who founded it and how are you connected to them?
Yeah, so my parents and my uncles founded the company back in 1997. So we've always been located in South Windsor. And I don't think I mentioned that in my kind of description, but so we've always been located in South Windsor. We moved facilities in 2014 to a larger facility, but we started off just like a lot of other manufacturers, one garage, you have like one machine that you start with, and a customer, and then it was trial and error. They tried to figure it out with their prior, work experience, and then they kind of got it going. And then,
so were they in manufacturing previously already and just decided time to strike out on our own? Or?
Yeah. So when they first came to America, which I think they were towards the end of high school, they decided that obviously they needed to work, right? You need to get an income. So while some of them were going to school, they all got jobs at manufacturing facilities. And that's when they kind of grew their interest and their passion. And then they thought, hey, we have this experience. Why not try this on our own? And it was just simple curiosity that really just started it all. It's just why, if other people can do it, why can't I?
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that's hopefully really inspirational because I know there's people out there that think you need to have some type of a grand vision or something to start a business. And all you need is like a little bit of will and some go get it. Right?
Exactly.
That's really cool. So your family was like obviously really involved. And what got you interested in manufacturing? Yeah.
So I was born a year after the company started. So I always grew up around manufacturing in the context of manufacturing. My parents would talk about it at home and stuff. So I heard it, and like a lot of other kids who grow up in, their family businesses, I was like, yeah, that's not for me, And so growing up, I was like, I don't think I want to do that. But that's also because in school, I didn't really get that much exposure to the different opportunities within manufacturing and kind of what small role we play within the big picture of manufacturing. And so, I graduated high school, went to college, I was at Northeastern in Boston and kind of explored my different options and did their co-op program. And during the co-op program, actually, where, we're working for 6 months out of the year, that's when I was like, oh, this is what manufacturing is.
Did you do a co-op at Accuturn?
No, so I didn't do a co-op at Accuturn. I actually did it in Boston.
Okay.
And it was in manufacturing, but it was different. It was in biotech. So so it was so I was helping make personalized immunotherapies for cancer patients. And I was kind of working with the machines, analyzing the quality of the products that we were making. Which now, as my role as, quality engineer at Accuturn, I see a lot of parallels.
Do you?
Obviously a lot of differences with the technologies that are being used. Like I deal with physical parts versus chemicals, right? And so it's different in that sense, but the process in which you have to take to make sure a product at the very end is of high quality is kind of it's very similar across multiple industries, I found. So you when you were in the biotech space, you made the connection to manufacturing, just the thought process there? Yeah. And that's when I asked my parents, I said, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about manufacturing?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because they were, I mean, ear to ear smiles. Like they
I was
did
going to
not.
say,
Yeah.
that must have been one of the happiest days. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They could not stop smiling for like months. And I was like, you're welcome. But yeah, so, I asked them and they kind of, they're like, come visit us for a weekend, take a break from Boston, come visit us and we'll show you what it's all about. Obviously when I was young and growing up, I didn't fully comprehend what manufacturing was, but now that I was, in college, a little older, I was able to fully grasp what manufacturing actually is and how it could be relevant to kind of what I studied and kind of my exposure and experiences in the past. So I went and I was like, this is kind of cool. Like I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So that was an option that was on my mind, right? And then 2020 graduated, and then that's when kind of COVID had hit. So they kind of kicked us all off campus. So we had to all go back to our respective homes. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to start working. I need to, make money. And so I was like, you know what? Let me give myself a little bit of time to figure out what I want to do. In the meantime, I'll work at Accuturn and try to see. 4 years later, I'm still here. Right. And I absolutely love it. It's honestly, I just wish I had known earlier that this truly is what manufacturing is. And, part of it's on me for,
so I think this is a topic that people would love to dig into, which is what did you think it was? And what did you find out that it is? And so what did you think it was that you didn't, you were like, eh. And then what did you find out that it was that you were like, hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought it was, and I think a lot of students nowadays, like, I talk to a lot of students and work with a lot of students, and I think they have the idea of manufacturing that I had when I was younger. And it's super dirty and you're just on the shop floor and it's just like black and white, like gray,
grimy,
like exactly grimy and stuff. And which I'm not going to deny it. There's a portion of manufacturing that is very hands-on. It's very, you get dirty, but there is a big portion of manufacturing that isn't that. It's high tech. It's, you're collaborating, you're trying to find solutions and you're using, new technologies, testing it out. And it's so exciting. And I think that excitement portion is not something that I had truly understood or like realized growing up. And now when I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so cool. It is so cool. There's just something new. Every single day I'm learning something new and it's absolutely amazing.
And maybe I'm going to be jumping off to a different topic here. We'll see where it goes. But if I'm listening to this and I'm like either an educator or I'm somebody that's in a position that's like, we got to do something about this problem. Yeah. What do you think can be done? What should be done if I made you queen for a day?
Yeah. Right. Oh, I would love that. So interesting enough, my name actually means queen in my language.
Oh,
so
does it?
There you go. Yeah.
Well, then you're queen for a life.
Right. No, exactly. Right. But, so I think early exposure and just talking about it is important. That's a good start. But I think what really makes a difference, and like, I think, if you think about it, like growing up, if someone gave you a presentation of anything, like you're dozing off, you're daydreaming, right? And so even if it's an interesting presentation, it's not going to really resonate with you, right? And so I think having students see firsthand, go into manufacturing facilities, for example, firsthand, it allows them to physically and actually see them in that space and see, hey, this is something that, that person, look what that person's doing. Like they're moving parts from here to here. That's something that I think would interest me. So I think piquing that interest early on with that firsthand exposure of what manufacturing actually is very vital.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's something as a saying that I think about all the time, which is you tell someone something they may not understand, you explain it, they may not comprehend, but if they experience it, they'll remember it for a lifetime.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of what you're really leaning into is get them in there to like really get that experience. And you don't really have to explain it. They can just see what's what.
They can just see it, right? And then it allows them to ask so many questions that they would otherwise not even know to ask if we just presented them with a couple of slides, right? Yeah. And so I think that in-person exposure is just so vital.
Did you go to the shop as a kid?
I did. So I think this is also just a super generic experience for a lot of kids who grew up in, manufacturing and machining. Growing up, I would be, like when I was younger, like elementary, middle school, I'd be summer times, I'd be in the office helping my mom like file stuff. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do this, right? No, exactly, right? Yeah. And then in high school, I was able to get a little bit more of that exposure to like engineering and kind of the shop floor and stuff. But it was high school, so I was applying to colleges. I was, kind of distracted by so many other things, or I had a lot going on, and I hadn't had any sort of formal exposure during high school of like, a field trip out of another manufacturing facility, like stuff like that. So, do you feel like your parents tried to keep you out of it, get you into it? Like where were they at? It sounds like they were excited when you expressed interest. I think they were really excited, but I think they did a really good job at allowing us to, like my sister and myself, to explore all of our options. They didn't want to kind of, funnel us into just only manufacturing, which allowed us to explore a lot of different other avenues and see if if it could be another fit and stuff. But I think what I wish had happened was if I had been kind of on the shop floor, obviously after the age, that is required and stuff, but,
we're not breaking any laws.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. Exactly. Right. And just kind of experienced it at firsthand, then I would have realized how cool it was. Right. And how, it's such an exciting environment to work in. So, they didn't,
were
they never
your
kind of
friends from Northeastern or even maybe from high school sort of surprised when?
Oh yeah. It was like a little,
people like, Ronnie, what are you doing?
No, exactly. It was like, how they have like gender reveals and it's like, you drop the sign. It's like, it's a boy, it's a girl. I was like, it's a career in manufacturing. and I was like, and they were like, what? Like, what? And so it shocked everyone, but, everyone was excited for me and everyone, knew that I would kind of explore everything that it had to offer and really just kind of try to thrive in that environment. And it's been an awesome journey so far.
When you talk, when they're interviewing or looking to recruit sort of young people into Accuturn, do you talk to those people and express your experience? Is that helpful? Talk to me a little bit about sort of your relationship to recruiting when it comes to young people into the business.
So I think that's a big thing. I think the face of manufacturing is changing, right? There's a lot of,
it better.
I know
exactly. We want to keep manufacturing,
right? There's a lot of young people. There's a lot of women. There's a lot of people of color like myself who are entering these spaces or have been in these spaces and are looking to kind of grow, a diverse pool of people, right? And so talking to our people who interview, right, is so essential because they are able to see it's kind of like see her, be her, right? And it's okay, like she's here and, she's been doing it. Why can't I, And it's also I think talking to them also is really good in maintaining expectations because I think that's a big thing where I think it's important for manufacturers or, I think it goes for any industry to kind of set realistic expectations of what manufacturing is or what that industry is or what that job looks like, right? If I'm like, oh yeah, you can be a machinist but work remotely, and like all that. I try to keep it also really real. Like, okay, hey, this is what this job entails. Like, yes, you will be handling parts. Yes, you will be doing this. And yes, it requires you to, do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. But also showing them, it requires that, but I'm also super happy in my career. So it's like you're able to take on all these challenges, but also be really satisfied in your career.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in life in general, it's at work or anywhere else, is setting false expectations.
Exactly.
Because they're going to come to work and figure out, I can't run this machine from home.
Exactly,
so if they think they can't come in, we got a problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think in manufacturing, we're competing, obviously with each other, but we're competing with other industries where remote work is possible. Yeah. The reality is for manufacturing, there are certain positions that can be remote, but there's certain that just simply can't as of now, right? And I think kind of understanding that that's our reality as manufacturers, but then providing other benefits or other options so that people see value in that job is essential.
So how do you think about overcoming that? Because I do think, I call it in lots of ways like head trash. It's the stories we tell ourselves that are self-limiting, right?
Yeah,
and I think, I alluded to one earlier, which I have heard a lot, which is, oh my God, the younger generation doesn't want to ever talk to anybody. Mm. And I don't think that that's really true, but if you just keep telling yourself that, then you sort of make it true.
Live it, yeah.
And so I wonder if you think that there's sort of these self-limiting beliefs in manufacturing that really necessarily aren't there with the young generation?
I think that, like, speaking on behalf of the entire young generation.
Yeah, I know. In my own mind, I'm like, I'm kind of anointing her, not just the queen for a day,
right?
but of the entire generation. Right? She speaks for everybody. But,
right?
As in your sample size, and what you've seen in your experience, I
think that we're all very curious. We're all very curious to learn. And that curiosity might look different than it does with the people who've been in the business for the past 25 years, right? And so just kind of having that the two generations kind of come together and meet, whether that's with training or whether that's with kind of exploring different avenues, right? Like, I think my generation is, we multitask a lot, like, right? We don't get through, like, we don't do one thing and sit through it and then we kind of multitask, and I think that can be a little difficult for the older generation to accept, right? When there's multiple things going on. So, it's kind of adjusting both people's expectations of what the other generation
Everyone's got to take a step to each other, right?
Exactly.
So when you think about sort of competing against some of those other industries, which is a really interesting perspective, what do you see as some of the upsides to manufacturing that you don't get from like a remote office job or whatever? What do you, when you say you got to share those, what are some of those benefits that you think about?
There's just there are so many opportunities to learn when you're in person in manufacturing, right? You could be on a team that patents something, right? You can be talking to like a big customer in person. You can be learning so much. And I think remote work is great for a lot of people, right? It helps them kind of get a job and it helps them thrive in kind of their work environment. But I think personally, kind of speaking on behalf of my experience, I thrive on the in-person connections, and that networking I think can't be found with remote working, like fully remote working, right? And so that's something that like networking has helped me not only learn about like the different opportunities within manufacturing, but just connect with other young individuals like myself to create kind of a group, like not a support group, but, a group of young manufacturers so that we can kind of rely on each other to say, hey, like, how's it going, and kind of create that
sense of community.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is such a core part of human nature, right?
Exactly.
That goes back tens of thousands, millions, however many years.
Exactly.
That's cool. Do you think that, one of the things that I've found interesting, and as you're talking, I've realized, well, I'm now in fully the next generation, because say I'm about 25 years ahead, which is wild. But anyway, one of the things that I've always found super interesting is I've worked in technology all my life. And so at some points it is a little bit, I don't know, frustrating, but when your kids say like, show me where you work, like, what do you do? And all I have to point out is a screen.
No, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I swear I do stuff in there. And they're like Minecraft. I'm like, no, well, I mean, it's not really exactly, know, but it's like, and then, working with manufacturers and being able to point to like a thing or, we've talked to so many manufacturers that have taken their kids to like the Air and Space Museum and like point out parts on airplanes or whatever that they've seen, or people that have said, oh, this part has been to the moon and stuff like that, which is like really cool, or looking at a car. And so does that capture your imagination? Yeah.
So I think that is such a vital portion, right? Because if people can't make that connection, or if young individuals can't make that connection of, oh, okay, yeah, like we make bearings, we make liners, but what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Like, how is it cool, right?
Right,
like,
yeah.
Right? Like, how is it actually interesting, right? Because it plays a vital role in the body of the aircraft, right? Sure. And so it's kind of helping make that connection, because otherwise they're not going to go out of their way to find Google, like, where does the liner go? Or, so it's really, when you're kind of exposing manufacturing to them at an early age, it's having that connection be built for them, because that will give a bridge to help them see, okay, hey, my role in this space is vital, right? The products that we create are vital. Yeah. And so,
Yeah, that's cool. So let's talk a little about AMEP. Yeah. So Advanced Manufacturing Employment or
Employer Partnership.
See. And so how'd you get introduced to AMEP, and what made you decide to get like so involved? Because I know you're passionate about it.
Yeah. So I actually, at Northeastern, when I was in college, I was very involved with a lot of clubs, stuff on campus, off campus. And so when I joined this space, I wanted to still join stuff outside of work. And so I literally Googled, I was Googling, and I was like, let me try to find a group that I can be a part of. And AMEP came up, and their projects and their kind of approach really resonated with me. So I joined pretty early on into joining Accuturn. I joined AMEP as just a general member. And then I joined one of their working groups, which essentially there's 3 working groups that focus on 3 different areas. And just to kind of give you a little overview of AMEP, right? So AMEP is the Advanced Manufacturing Employer Partnership. And essentially we are the capital area region's voice for manufacturers. So, all the towns that fall within our region, we listen to what they want. Beginning of the year, we send out a survey. We say, hey, what do you want to see from us? How can we help you thrive in your business, right? We send out that survey, they respond, and we create with our 3 different groups, the first being business development, job quality, and then training pathways. With those 3 different focus areas, we'll create either an event, a training, something so that those manufacturers are able to participate in this training or event, and they can then grow their business. But our main focus with AMEP is how do we create and maintain high quality positions, fill them with high quality candidates to help your business grow.
That's a huge part.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. And so it's fun. It's a volunteer led group. So everyone there, everyone's a volunteer, and it's great because you really get people who are passionate, and you really it's nice because you get voices of different manufacturers, people who might not be an aerospace and defense manufacturer. They might be in other, sub industries. And so it's really cool to see their perspective on things. So kind of going back to the working groups, right? We have business development, which focuses on creating events or trainings so that people can grow their business, right?
Learn how to grow their business.
Exactly.
Yeah, which people that don't know, who haven't run a business like that, it doesn't just happen by happenstance.
Yeah,
you got to have a strategy, you got to execute it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so earlier this year with that group, we ran a free program for manufacturers in our area to introduce them to all the different marketing and social media strategies out there, because now that we have AI and all that good stuff, how can you really be efficient with all the marketing that you're doing, utilizing these tools out there, right? And we got a really good response on that training, and I think we might be bringing that back hopefully in the future. We also have our job quality group. So that's that portion that I was saying where how do we create and maintain high quality jobs? And then how do we train those managers or supervisors to then come in and make sure that those jobs remain high quality and that they're filling them with high quality candidates, and our last group is the training pathways group. And that group is truly my passion project. And so that group, it's also led by Allison Carey from Carey Manufacturing. So that group talks to high school, so we did a pilot program it was last year. And we worked with Manchester High School, and we worked with the students. It was about a cohort of about 12 students. And we brought them through this 2-day program where the first day we talked to them about manufacturing careers. And once again, this is all volunteer led. So the people who are talking to them are manufacturers. We're literally talking live, being in the space. Right. And so we had a couple people like myself kind of describe what my day-to-day looks like, right? Like, what do I do? And we like to keep it open, right? We like to kind of have that open flowing conversation rather than, hey, here's just a presentation, look at these, choose one, do it, right? We kind of like to keep that conversation going. Yep. And then the second day we brought them into a manufacturing facility. So that's that portion that I was talking about where it's like, yeah, we can have a presentation, we can talk about it, but are they really going to retain what we talked about, or are they going to create that connection once they're physically there? And so that's what our program does. And we've successfully implemented it again. I think it was last month. We did it again at MHS with a different pool of kids. And now we're expanding it out to different high schools within our region. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's really
exciting.
So
I was surprised that was your passion project over the quality jobs and the recruiting. But what is it about that really kind of lit your fire in terms of wanting to do that part of the project?
I think I just saw myself in their shoes, right? Mm-hmm. When I was in school, the school and the counselors did a great job at supporting you for a 4-year university, supporting you for, getting a degree so that you can then hopefully maybe get a corporate job or, pursue further education. But what we didn't have was options or full support, the same intensity of support for the other options, right? Trade school, working straight out of high school, going to university, that's an option for sure. But there's just other options that people can explore that I didn't get the chance to. And so talking to these students, we learn about how what they actually want to do. And then from there, we can make sure that they have the resources that they need to make that happen, that the school has the resources that they need to make that happen.
So it's really, in your mind, I'm putting words in your mouth, so you have to agree or not.
Yep.
But it's really about filling a gap that you guys noticed about sort of at school. Hey, maybe there's some lip service to it, but it's not getting the same. It's getting short shrift compared to this other path.
Exactly.
And we want to elevate the thing so people see it.
Exactly.
That's great. And how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Yeah. So last year we had the pilot program, and it was, it was we got really good response from both educators and students and also volunteers. So all the manufacturers who participated, they're with us now. Yeah, they felt good about it because as a manufacturer, participating in this program, what you learn is it's gold. You basically get to talk to the future workforce, and you're like, okay, you get to learn what their expectations are. So now if I know, okay, hey, they need a little bit more hands-on learning when we onboard them, when they get into the workforce 2, 3, 5 years later, we have a plan in place to make sure that generation is properly onboarded. And so that's why volunteering in programs like this not only benefits the students or the educators or the school system, it really benefits manufacturers. So. That's
when everybody sort of is winning, that's really, really, really nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Where do you, I have such an interview question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You sort of found a spot here. Obviously you're passionate about it and you like it. That comes out in spades, which is great, right? Nothing breeds excitement like excitement. Where do you see, you're in quality engineer right now. Where do you see yourself wanting to go? What does the future look like when you take a step back and think about where you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah. So that's a great question.
Let's pretend that no one else is going to hear this.
I know, right? I love what I do as a quality engineer, and every single day I am doing something so different. I'm learning something so different. Literally before I came here, I was working on a different project and I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting. And it's just so every single day I am challenged, and I absolutely love that. And so kind of when I take a step back and look at it, I love the technical portion of my job and what I do. So I think speaking right now, in 15 years, check in and be like, Rani, did you do that? Yeah. But I think in 10, 15 years, I still want to kind of be looking at things in the technical lens, but I want to also be taking a step back and seeing kind of the company as a whole, recruiting people, and, kind of doing a little bit more of building the business, and
working on the business as opposed to just in the business.
Exactly. Yeah. Working on the business. Yeah.
What did you study at Northeastern?
So I studied health sciences, but I had my I know, right? Yeah. So that's why I love with the training pathways program, I love talking to students, because I'm like, listen, I am an example of how you can have a successful career, right? So I did health sciences because I thought I was going to be, a med student. I thought I was going to go to med school. And then after the co-op, and that was junior year, after the co-op at Northeastern, I was like, oh my gosh, I had that epiphany. I was like, oh my gosh, do I want to go to more schooling? Am I personally built for that? And I was like, you know what? I need to sit down and think about it, right? And so that's when I was like, you know what? There's no rush to commit to, further schooling or anything like that right now, right? So I finished out my degree, and I was like, let me just explore what different industries are out there and what it looks like. And so when I joined Accuturn, it kind of stuck. But my prior experience working in the co-op really helped kind of bridge me into the quality engineer position that I have today. And like I said, every single day you're learning something new. And, while my degree wasn't necessarily aimed at my position right now, that kind of goes to show that you can go, if you are really passionate or if you want to learn, you can go from high school, enter the industry, and learn on the job. Because what's great about manufacturing, I think manufacturing in Connecticut in general, manufacturers will invest time in you to learn. Whether that is 3 months, 4 months, a year, they will teach you on the job. They will provide you with the trainings you need, and they will support your growth to ensure that you're a good employee for them, but also that you're satisfied with your job. And I think that's a very important part of kind of the big picture of being in manufacturing. So,
That's terrific. Rani, I'm going to leave it there. It's such a great story. I fully love your passion and what you're doing, how you got there, and also that you're reinvesting at such a young age too, your time into making the broader community better, through AMEP and taking your time to do this podcast. I think that's so strong. And as someone who's seen this movie before in other ways, it's the people who take this type of opportunities and put this amount in early on that end up being super successful down the line. So we absolutely will check in 15 years. And we expect to see a whole lot of really, really positive things. Yep. I'm going to ask you a couple of last questions, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So first thing is I'm going to pivot off some of the questions I normally ask and go to something a little bit different because you're earlier in your career. So I'm going to ask you, if you take a step back and think one of the most delightfully surprising things, as specific as you can, that you were like, wow, I didn't know I would be able to do this, but now that I'm in manufacturing and doing it, I love it. What comes to your mind when you think of something like that?
I think it would be, even though I grew up in that space, I think working on machines. I think I saw it and I didn't really, and growing up, I did not see too many females on the shop floor, I'll be honest, And so now, see her, be her. I'm on the shop floor and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do this anyone can, it shouldn't prevent you from doing it if you're, a girl or if you're a female, So I think that is something that kind of, my younger self was proud of me in that moment, and I was like, you know what? I can do it, I can do it. And so even though I didn't see that specific representation growing up, I'm still able to do it. And so
that felt good.
It felt great. And it's kind of one of those things where it broke a barrier for me where I was like, okay, just because I don't see it doesn't mean I can't do it. And so now I'm like, when I try different things, I'm like, that's fine. It's fine if it takes me some time to learn, but I'm going to try to learn it at least, right? You can't fail learning, I think. So
you definitely cannot fail learning. Yeah. That's fantastic. And if you were talking to not even just a young person, but a person out there who's been hearing about manufacturing, because I know we've been doing a lot, not just on this podcast, but in the state and even in the country, just kind of advertising about, hey, there's great careers in manufacturing. If you're someone that's out there who's listening to this and saying, okay, I want to consider it, but they don't know how to take the first step, what would you recommend they do to take a first step?
I think the first step is just reach out to someone, anyone. It could be, through a manufacturer's website. It could be even at a company that you don't necessarily want to work for, but just starting that conversation, you'll learn so much. You'll learn so much about the different career options out there, right? What you like, what you don't like. You'll learn so much about kind of the type of people that you would be interacting with. And I think it's definitely a scary first step. That's a given, right? It's
first step's always the scariest.
Exactly, right? But you can't go wrong, right? You'll always, I think, taking that first step, you'll always learn something, whether it's you don't like it or you do like it, but at least you'll learn that. You won't be in that unknown of, you won't regret not trying or reaching out.
That's right. Listen, Rani, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved being here and excited.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by Compass MSP.
Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a strong manufacturing community, and it would be impossible to do without all of you.